The following program was produced by local producers at PAC 14. Views expressed in the show do not necessarily reflect PAC 14 or its affiliates. Some content shown may not be suitable for all audiences.
Hi there, welcome to Anime Club, brought to you by PAC 14. I'm Michael Jones.
I'm Jacob Johnson.
I'm Kevin Nichols.
And I'm Mark Harrington.
And this is Anime Club. It is a multi-part series based on getting you or your friends into anime and or the otaku culture.
This particular episode is going to serve as basically an introduction to anime, kind of explain what anime is, what an otaku is, and maybe give you some recommendations on if you wanted to get involved in anime, where you can start.
So what anime is basically anime translates directly to animation, if you're going from Japanese to English. And since the term means animation, if you want to get real technical, anime describes anything that's animated, but in the West we use the term exclusively for animation or cartoons that come from Japan or the surrounding territories. There are also, when talking about anime, you also usually want to talk about manga, which is basically Japanese comics. They are produced a bit differently. They are typically produced on a week-by-week basis and are made by a single person or a team of two people, as opposed to American comics, which have a full team. And, that's pretty much the basic overview of anime and manga.
Alright, and people who go ahead and watch anime, read manga, all that stuff are called otakus. Now, there's a completely different definition between the Western and the Japanese version of it. In the Japanese culture, otaku is basically an obsession, a very unhealthy obsession of anything, really. Now it can
Somebody who's obsessed with movies would be like a movie otaku.
Yes.
Somebody who's obsessed with book would be a book otaku. There's stuff like that.
Yes, and you don't want to be called an otaku in the Japanese culture.
It's quite offensive.
Very offensive.
But it's not that way here, is it?
Oh, no. In here, it's nerd, a geek, something more endearing. Something more endearing. It's more of a group, and everyone being like, hey, I'm a nerd, I'm a geek, yay, let's hang out together.
And I'm an otaku.
Yeah, and that would still work, although it's used
It's
a
a
little
lot
bit
less offensive.
It's used a bit less and much less offensive here.
And it specifically revolves around anime and manga and other Japanese culture stuff. It's not the same as it is in Japan, right?
No, not at all.
And a common misconception about watching anime is that it's only for kids because they see, oh, it's a cartoon. That's only for kids, right? Not with anime. The good thing about it is there is a wide variety of things. The age group kind of varies a lot, so there can be stuff that's for younger audiences, like stuff that's more family friendly, stuff that you could watch with your parents or something like that. But then it ranges all the way up to stuff that's more graphic, has violence in it, has some more 18 plus themes in it and stuff like that. And there's also obviously a middle ground, so it gives viewers a lot of options depending on what you're into. There's animes that are involve cooking, there's ones that involve fighting, there's ones that just involve comedy, so there's a lot of different things that viewers have options to, and there's no one set age group for anime.
So as far as demographics go, it's basically the same as Western media. Everything has its own demographic.
Yeah, exactly.
And now, since, as we mentioned, anime basically refers to anything that's animated, it is just as wide a media form as anything else, so it has tons of different genres. So if you have something that you're specifically interested in, you can probably find an anime that fits that particular genre. One of the most popular genre of anime is battle or action anime, which is typically about main characters who go ahead and they get stronger and they'll go ahead and compete and fight against other characters, whether it be with superpowers, flight, swords, or something else, magic.
Giant robots.
So yeah, stuff like Dragon Ball Z or Naruto, it's all about getting stronger and fighting, and it's typically meant for a bit younger audience, but sometimes it can have more adult themes.
Your friends no longer exist in this world. Do you really want to live alone forever?
You're wrong. I am far from alone.
For a more sort of like Japan exclusive genre, they basically have a genre that's called magical girls. And it is about coming of age young women, typically in their teens, who discover that they have magical powers through some way or other. Sometimes they're given it, sometimes they've had it all along. And basically they get to fight monsters and demons and entities of evil. It's typically more for like young girls. It's a Japan exclusive, but it's actually surprisingly popular. Then you have your mystery and thriller anime. So in the West, we might have like cop shows and stuff. They actually have some like that. They also have detective shows like Case Closed. These shows are more about the suspense. They typically have more focus on plot going on, character interactions, plot development. So basically, tons of different stuff to go on there.
You're insane! You have no proof!
Where's your necklace, Haley? In line, you had a long string of pearls around your neck. Pearls just like these.
Then you have your romance anime, of course. These are actually surprisingly a lot harder to find. Lots of different anime have romance as a subplot, but you do have the occasional anime that is entirely focused on the romance development between two characters, or how the relationship lasts facing certain strenuations. Then something that is actually quite interesting that I like myself is sports anime. You typically don't have as many shows in the West focused on fictional sports stories, but that's actually something that happens a lot in anime, where basically it can be about any sport. It can be like boxing, it can be volleyball, it can be tennis, it can be American football, and it'll either be about a single individual or a team of people, typically in the high school range, and it's about them typically developing from amateur level at their selective sports to like national, like competitive level. They get to face other teams, other people, and it's all about their self-betterment. And then after that, you also have Slice of Life, which is the closest you're going to get to a regular sitcom in anime. And it's about, typically it's always about a group of friends that are going ahead, and you just get to see their everyday activities. It's all about just normal people doing more or less normal things. Sometimes the show will have like a gimmick going on to make things a little bit more interesting. But otherwise, it's just, watch people have fun. Like, I know there's one about camping, of all things, and it can be about anything, and they can be surprisingly good watches. You would be surprised.
Most of them are in the school range, though. Like, you get people in high school, middle school, sometimes.
Hey, Tsukasa, which end of a chocolate cornet do you eat first?
Huh? I think I started the head.
Really? So which side of this thing's the head anyway, the fat part or the skinny?
If there's anything you're specifically interested in anime, there is probably at least one single anime that covers it, and probably even a better chance of this anime that covers it well.
While watching anime, you can either watch it two ways, the sub or the dub. There's the difference between sub and dub, where in dub, you go ahead and watch the English voice actors go on with the characters, and in the sub, you read the subtitles and listen to the Japanese dialogue.
Japanese dialogue, yeah.
Yeah, and the Japanese dialogue, which is the sub, usually comes out a little quicker because you don't have to find English voice actors immediately. However, the dub is perfectly clear for English speakers like us, obviously.
Or someone who's a slow reader.
Yep.
Or someone I'm a slow reader. I'm a terrible slow reader.
Now, in recent days, they have been managing to release the dub the same day they release it in Japanese.
They have. However, in some anime, it's still hundreds of episodes away.
Not hundreds. You're probably looking at like a couple months away.
Couple months, couple months. Like in Dragon Ball. There's some. They're
a little bit behind.
So one of our purposes here in this episode is we want to go ahead and give you guys some recommendations for gateway anime. So these are either anime that are short enough that they're easily digestible and friendly to get into, or that there's just enough of it that if you just want to have something to watch, you can do that. So before we give our first recommendation, I want to ask everyone here is, who is your favorite superhero? Personally, I am a fan of Captain America.
I guess it depends on superhero. I kind of like Domino.
All right.
I'll go with Iron Man.
And you?
Iron Man's good.
Deadpool?
That's acceptable.
Good
so
job.
if you like superheroes and you were like, maybe if there's an anime of superheroes, I think I have a good recommendation for you, and that's called My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia takes place in a world where 80% of the population have superpowers, and they're called quirks. Now, not all characters have really good quirks. Some quirks can be as simple as being able to magically draw small objects to your hand, while others can spit fire. Some of them are just all around super strong. Some people can be invisible. So some people have good quirks, some people have bad quirks. The main character of this show is a young boy named Midoriya, and he was born quirkless. He has no superpowers, and this is a big deal because ever since a young age, he has idolized the world's #1 hero, All Might. Basically, imagine a really American Superman. And basically, this guy has been Midoriya's idol for his entire childhood, but he's been quirkless, so he can't really become a hero like him. In this world, there are schools which groom people with proper powers to go ahead and become superheroes. So there are high schools that explicitly train people to become superheroes. Through sheer chance, Midoriya gets to meet his idol, All Might, and by sheer demonstration of how amazing his personal character is as a person, he is basically allowed to inherit All Might's powers, which is completely unheard of in this universe.
All Might, goodness!
As far as the population is concerned, there's no way to gain powers, so this is a secret that he has to keep. And the big deal is All Might is the strongest hero, and Midoriya is a small boy. So he's got to train and be a worthy inheritor for the power, or he will literally destroy his body doing so. The story is an amazing, heartfelt, heartstring-tugging story. There are parts that are going to make you cry. There are parts that are going to make you, get out of your seat and cheer. It's got amazing, beautiful, bright art style. It's got a good dub and sub. I personally prefer the sub, but it's also one of the anime that comes out with the dub the same day. So you have your choice between the two. Both of them have really stellar voice casts. And honestly, I cannot, recommend this show enough. It's really nice. I'd highly recommend it.
緑谷ありがとな
For our next recommendation, I'm going to ask another hypothetical, and that is, imagine that you were given a notebook that if you wrote down somebody's name and you knew their face in it, they magically died. What would you do with this notebook? Would you keep it? Would you destroy it? What would you do?
I would name every mosquito in the area Bob, and I would write their name down and kill everyone. All of the mosquitoes. I don't like mosquitoes. I really don't.
I would sell it.
That's boring.
Yeah.
What I would do is not something I can mention on TV.
Well, that basically describes the plot of the next anime, Death Note. Michael, can you give us a description of it?
So basically it starts out with a high school genius who stumbles upon the Death Note, and he doesn't believe it's real, so he figures he'd just try it out. He turns on the news. He sees this guy holding up was it an elementary school?
I think it was an elementary school.
Yeah. So he writes the guy's name down, and it works. So he gets the idea that he's going to kill off all of the world's criminals. And this picks up the attention of the police. They notice everybody's dying mysterious deaths of heart attacks. And from there, we're introduced to the main character's rival, L, who is a famous detective, but nobody knows his identity or his name. And throughout the entire show, they're having a battle of wits to see who can reveal the other and who can stop the other. The show is actually really good at blurring the lines of good and evil, what's right, what's wrong. Because, is it right to kill criminals or not?
I guess it depends on the situation, huh?
It kind of depends on your personal opinion. So, it's pretty much up for the viewer to decide who's the good guy and who's the bad guy.
You can really choose who you want to root for.
Yeah.
Like, both the protagonist and the antagonist, Light and L, they're both willing to, like, sacrifice some of their own morals to get what they want. So there's not really a
And their lives.
better person between the two.
It's like a game of chess where they're both equally
Intelligent.
intelligent and skilled with it. So they're just going left and right.
Kira, I will hunt you down wherever you're hiding, and I will eliminate you. I am justice.
For the next recommendation, I'm going to ask another hypothetical. And this one is, imagine you have a really close deceased loved one. What would you be willing to give up in turn to bring them back?
I'd probably keep them dead, to be honest. Just have good memories of them and let them be.
Yeah, same.
Same for you?
Yeah.
Well, if your answer was I would be willing to give an arm, a leg, or my younger brother, you would have something in common with the main character of this show.
So the anime he's referring to with that very dark joke is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. So it takes place in a universe where there exists a science called alchemy, and basically what that means is it follows an idea called equivalent exchange. So it allows people in this universe to create physical objects as long as they have the materials needed to create that physical object. So for example, one of these like plastic figurines here, I could create one of them as long as I have access to like the plastic. I could just like create one just like that. There's a darker side to it though when these two brothers lose their mother, she dies, and they want to bring her back using alchemy, which is one of those things where it's like taboo, you're not supposed to try to do that.
Human transmutation is strictly forbidden. For what could equal the value of a human soul?
So they try to do it, but unfortunately it goes wrong because of the laws of equivalent exchange. The older brother loses an arm and a leg, and the younger brother loses his entire body. And they do get their mother back, but not how she originally was. It's kind of like a Frankenstein's monster sort of thing. She comes back as like this horrible monstrosity. So the older brother uses alchemy to kind of bond the younger brother's soul to a suit of armor in order to keep him alive. And the whole story mostly follows these two brothers journey to try to find a way to get the younger brother's body back. And there's a lot of other obstacles in the way. And overall, there's a website that lists like thousands upon thousands of anime, and that one has been sitting at the #1 spot for the longest time, and it's still been #1 after all these years. It has great story, great character development, really good action scenes. There are some scenes that are just so like emotional, you'll cry.
Are you all right, Colonel?
Yeah, I'm fine. Except, it's a terrible day for rain.
What do you mean? It's not raining.
Yes, it is.
Oh, so it is.
And I super recommend it. Now, one thing to keep in mind, there's two things. There's Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. They are the exact same thing as far as the main story. The only difference is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood came out more recently. It's newer. It has like a nicer, crisp art style because it's newer. And it follows more closely to the manga, which is like the comic book version, essentially.
It's the more canon version between the two.
Yeah, it follows more of the details that the actual anime may have missed. So overall, I would super recommend that, and it's a great one to get started into because it doesn't have anything too obscure, and it's like a super original idea, so it's super like interesting.
Actually, this is one of the animes that has a really good dub over a sub, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, like you said, that there's two versions of the show. If you had to watch only one, watch Brotherhood. But if you if you have time for both, definitely watch both.
If you just like the characters, Full Metal Alchemist will get you an extra storyline that the other one doesn't cover, and it still has the same characters.
Even though we were trying to restore our own bodies, it was still human transmutation we were after. A forbidden science. If we failed the next time, there would probably be nothing left of us. We had no idea what the future would hold, but we knew there was no turning back.
For my next question is, I want to ask everyone here, what kind of clubs were you in high school?
I was in a sign language club.
I was in a competitive math club called Math League.
I wasn't in any club because I really didn't get out much.
Me either.
Well, this next anime focuses on a very specific type of club called a host club.
Yes, this anime is called Oran High School Host Club. It is about this young high schooler named Haruhi Fujioka who is accepted into the super high class high school, and she ends up meeting a bunch of these guys in the host club until she breaks a vase, which is about 8 million yen.
What? 8 million yen? How many thousand yen is that? How many thousands are in a million?
It's like $73,000 by today's standards, but that's still really expensive for a vase.
That's a lot. So in order to repay the debt she had, she is going to join the host club. Now, if you have not seen a picture of Haruhi, she has very short hair and she has a boyish figure, meaning she could very well cosplay as a girlish-looking boy, which that's basically what she does.
That's exactly what happens.
That's exactly what she does. It's to the point where no one else other than the other host club members know. And
it takes them a while to figure that out.
All of episode 1.
All of episode 1.
Haruhi.
Yeah?
So you're a girl?
Biologically speaking, yeah.
She has to go ahead and flirt and talk and have dates with girls. It's completely PG. There's only little tea dates and everything.
Very wholesome dates.
Very wholesome. It's actually kind of cute how wholesome it is, especially with their big frilly dresses. Each and every one of the members of this host club has a particular quirk.
But not a superhero quirk.
Not a superhero quirk. A gimmick, a trait. One of them is the princely type. One of them is a silent and stoic type. One of them is a cheerful, happy, boyish type. There's even twins there that are apparently very mischievous. I'm terrible at words. Mischievous.
A little water never hurt anyone. Besides, people are always telling me that I'm dripping with good looks.
All of them are in this host club, see their day-to-day lives, you see their backgrounds. So this anime is especially ahead of this time with gender roles specifically. It talks about who you are as a person, boy or girl, and the main character Haruhi is even gender fluid as far as we're concerned.
Listen, Senpai, I don't really care whether you guys recognize me as a boy or a girl. In my opinion, it's more important for a person to be recognized for who they are rather than for what sex they are.
Okay, so maybe at this point we've convinced you and you're going ahead and being like, okay, so maybe this anime thing isn't just for a bunch of kids, but I don't have enough time to go ahead and watch an entire show to see whether or not I like it and give other things a chance. Well, considering anime just means animation, this also includes anime movies and films, and one of the most well-known studios for this is Studio Ghibli. It's made tons of different anime films, and has created Spirited Away, which is the #2 highest-grossing anime film of all time, right behind a more recent film called Your Name. And basically, Spirited Away is about a young girl who, she is 10 years old. She is moving away from her hometown against her will, in the sense that her parents are like, they get new jobs at a new city, so they have to move. She's not very happy about it. She's grumbly in the back of the car the whole time. Eventually, they sort of get lost and they take a detour and they stop in an empty town. But it looks like the town's having a full-on festival. And her parents go ahead and partake of some of the food. And by the way, food looks amazing in all of the Studio Ghibli films.
Everything looks amazing in Studio Ghibli films.
And basically, after eating some of the food, her parents magically turn into these giant pigs. And basically, the entire journey in the story is she needs to go and do a whole bunch of different misadventures, doing a bunch of tasks for Insert River's spirit, or for Baba herself, or for this giant spider-legged, like, blacksmith. And she's got to do all these different things for these different people and weird creatures in order to get her parents to turn back to normal. And I can't really go into more depth because this is fantasy film.
We want you to watch it.
This is fantasy film, pure and simple. It is a lovely, it's an absolutely lovely story. The animation is so detailed. They pay such attention to detail. Everything is absolutely beautiful. It's fluid. It's vivid. Spirited Away is probably one of the top anime film recommendations I can give for anybody. It's just a fun watch. Really good dub. I haven't seen the sub myself, but Studio Ghibli typically knocks it out of the park for both.
So we've covered a lot of more recent animes that are like critically acclaimed, like really popular right now. But there's also a lot of ones that are just considered classics, just like, the kind of like the top tier stuff that's just recognized overall. Stuff like, for example, there's One Piece. That's been going on for like 20 years now, and it's still being made to this day. It's super, super popular amongst more casual anime fans. The manga is also really popular. Another one is Dragon Ball Z, which a lot of people, even if you don't watch anime, you've at least probably heard about Dragon Ball Z. That's also been going on for a while. There's been a lot of different shows. There's Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT.
Which we don't talk about.
We don't talk about Dragon Ball GT. And then most recently, Dragon Ball Super. There's been like, oh my lord, how many movies are there?
I think they're like 14 or 15 now.
So there's 13 Dragon Ball Z movies. There's 4 Dragon Ball movies. There's 1 GT movie.
And 2 Supers at right now. And another one coming out soon.
Oh, yeah, so it's...
And like a million games.
Yeah, and there's been, there's been so many games. It's super popular in Japan right now, and it's super popular here, so it's been one of those animes that's kind of like stood the test of time to a degree. 2 more final ones. Obviously there's Naruto, which another one that's really popular among casuals. It's been out for a long time. It's had a couple different shows, Naruto Shippuden, and most recently Boruto. And then probably one of the most iconic is Sailor Moon. That came out in the early 90s. And that is super, super popular in Japan. It's also super popular here, and it's kind of stood the test of time as far as how popular it is and how many people have watched it over the years. And I think it most recently got a
reboot.
Yeah, a reboot.
Sailor Moon Crystal. And basically Sailor Moon is like the de facto original like magical girl, and like as far as like bridging over to the West.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been talking about anime this entire episode, but I haven't told you where you can see it. So there's plenty of places to choose from. You can always find it on Netflix, Hulu. There's a streaming service called Funimation Now that streams all their dubs and a couple subtitled shows. And there's Crunchyroll, which focuses more on subs, but they have a lot of anime to choose from. So check out any of them. So thank you all for watching Anime Club, brought to you by Pack 14. Again, I'm Michael Jones.
I'm Jacob Johnson.
I'm Karen Nichols.
And I'm Mark Harrington.
And next time we'll be talking about the wonders of Japanese culture. Until next time, arigato.
See ya.